We're now going to talk about some of the important terms and ideas. If you have an easier time reading vocabulary instead of having it read to you, basically, then you can go ahead and skip this video. However, if you think this will help you, this is here for you then. The first two terms we're going to talk about is superclass and subclass. So the superclass is your main class. It's sometimes called the base class, but usually not. Usually it's called superclass. The subclass is the one that extends your superclass. So like in our example, our superclass was the bank account and the subclass was our savings account. So it has all the same traits and personalities as the superclass, but it just does other things with it. In real life, Net Classroom is a superclass. Your teachers can log in and see all of your grades for the class, but you guys have access to the subclass, which is just your grade information. We don't give you access to the superclass, only to the subclass. For abstract, abstract is a term that can either be applied to a class or it can be applied to a method. So like here you see public abstract class my class or public abstract void chamfer. What it means when it's applied to a class is that it prevents any object from being created or instantiated in the class. The only time that you would really do this is if you want to protect your class and the only purpose for this class is to use for inheritance. So you want to create it so that it can inherit traits from it, but not create new information. Notice at the end of the method, there's a semicolon. So after you call abstract for a method, you don't use any brackets at all. This is the only line in this method. What it does is it forces the subclass to inherit the class and to implement that code right there. So I know that doesn't really mean a lot to you right now, but know that this is what it's used for, and it will come in handy later. We also have final. Final can also be applied to a class or to a method. If you use final for a class, it means that you are setting, like right here in this example, it's setting up my class. That means that my class cannot be inherited by any other class. You cannot use any of the information in my class. If you have final in a method, it means it can't be overwritten in a subclass. Which brings us to our next word, overriding. So if you have final for your method, you cannot override the information in the subclass. So now we're going to talk about overriding. So overriding happens when you have a method defined in the superclass and in the subclass. Like in our bank account method, if instead of add interest, we would have called it deposit, and then we would have also had deposit in bank account. So this is when you have two of the same signature. So remember, the signature is the public, double, void, int, whatever it is, the name of the method, and the item that that method receives. So they have the same signature, then this is overriding. Without final applied, it always takes the one in the subclass instead of the superclass. This is like when you ask your mom if you can go out tonight and she says no, and then you ask your dad and he says yes. You take the one that says yes. For overriding, it takes the information gathered in the subclass. However, if you had final in your superclass, this is like your dad saying, go ask your mother, instead of just saying yes. So final makes it take from whichever one you apply to. Usually you have to apply it in the superclass. I'm going to go ahead and recommend right now that you come up with better names for your class names than trying to use the same names over and over and over again. Use ones that are more appropriate for the program you're writing. Then you'll totally avoid the situation. But if you have to do it, because you're just stubborn like that, you can call on the other method using super dot and then call on the method and send it the information. So there are workarounds for it. You're ready to move on to video number 3.